Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising, here is your tarot reading for Aries season. If you're expecting me to say for the week ahead, be sure to go and check out the channel update on the channel, because it will give you an indication as to why we're moving to monthly readings instead. As ever, take what's helpful, leave what isn't. Always get the messages to fit into your life rather than trying to get your life to fit around the messages. And as ever, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to keep updated as to when these videos are coming. And also drop an emoji down in the comments as well, or a comment or a question. It really, really helps. So we start off with the Hierophant, a glorious card, a card that usually indicates orthodoxy, but can also represent the spiritual, particularly spiritual mentorship or a spiritual leader. There's a gentle reminder here, particularly as we start to enter into some kind of gently rocky times emotionally this month, this season, Leo. Nothing that's going to necessarily cause irrevocable damage, nothing that is beyond what you can handle. But there may very well be some tests of faith or a need for emotional resilience coming up for you. And the Hierophant is just reminding you that in those times that you may doubt, that you may feel frustrated, that you may feel a little bit unsure, where do we go? Where do we head to? That brings us that sense of solace, that brings us that sense of sanctuary. And there's a big, big reminder here that find that within your spiritual practice, whatever your spiritual practice might represent to you. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to retreat to the Himalayas and live in a cave. But it may just mean that you seek the guidance, counsel, advice of somebody that you really respect. Somebody that is in many ways going to be quite disinterested in your life, not to be confused with uninterested, but disinterested in a particular way that it's that they can have an objectivity with your life, offer some really invaluable guidance. So a reading might be really useful, a psychic reading, a tarot reading might be really useful. I'm not just saying that to plug by any means. But the Hierophant really does talk about, it's the High Pope, so it's the person that we go to that brings us a sense of kind of being able to be a guiding light within the storm. So whomever that may be, so just remember this season, Leo, that at any times, one of the kind of upshots and quote unquote downshots of being Leo is that we can often feel that we need to do things on our own, privately. And that's great in many ways, because as much as the Leo is part of the pride, part of the group of lions, there is also this need to pull away. And particularly if your modus operandi, your natural proclivity is to kind of take yourself off into isolation, that's fine. There's nothing to say that you shouldn't do that, but do that in tandem with somebody else. So not complete isolation, still be checking in with the guidance. And even if that isn't somebody physical, maybe that is your guides, your helpers, loved ones in spirit, that's also fine. And also that could be a spiritual leader that you really admire, read their books, watch their videos, whatever it might be. I say a lot of this because we have in the next two cards the Seven of Cups and the Five of Cups. Now, odd numbers in the tarot, I'm sure you've heard me say, are transitionary numbers. So they lack the stability and security that is often found within the even numbers. They are the transition point between solidity, chaos, solidity. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes we can look at those odd numbers and think, oh, they're somehow bad. Not at all. These are the times for change. They're the times that bring about, they ensure that we don't get stuck or stagnant or stale, which is a danger of the even numbers. So the fact that you've got the Seven of Cups and the Five of Cups here talks about that transitionary nature, particularly within emotions. Cups being the suit of water, which is linked with, in part, spirituality, arguably, but particularly the emotional realm, because they are always in flux. They come and go. The Five of Cups, I believe, is the Lord of loss of pleasure, something like that. But to me, it's always about don't cry over spilt milk. Don't focus only on what isn't working. Focus on what is working. There may be times throughout Aries season, Leo, that you're feeling as though, particularly with the Seven of Cups, the Lord of illusionary success, there is this sense of being overwhelmed and not knowing what choice to make. And there being a feeling later on of maybe some of those choices that you had made, you kind of go, oh my goodness, why did I do that? Why did I make that mistake? I knew it was wrong. I knew, and partly I would say, well, be kind on yourself, because there is a lot going on and there are a lot of choices to be made this month. And there is an air of confusion, both on a kind of local level, but also, I would argue, on a grander level too. There is quite a lot of unanswered questions at the moment globally, to put it mildly. There is a lot of uncertainty. There is a lot of things that are in flux. So unsurprisingly, we're going to pick up on that. So it's going to be felt in the collective energies, and therefore felt on a personal level too. So there is a reminder here, particularly with the Five of Cups, of do focus on the positive. Don't beat yourself up, even if you've made a quote unquote bad choice, a seemingly bad choice. I don't believe there are any bad choices in life. Even when we make a supposedly bad choice, it does bring clarity. It does bring a sense of, I won't do that again. Or, that was the wrong choice, I should have done. It's not always a thwarted. There are lessons to be found in all our choices. And this is why they're starting with that Hierophant energy. This reminder of, if you have big choices to make over Aries season, do you seek counsel? Do you seek your own counsel? Now, I know that may sound a bit of a strange thing. Effectively, I'm talking about your intuition. Strictly speaking, the Hierophant isn't the card of intuition. But whether this is about, and again, for some of you, this might sound a bit grandiose, but whether that's about speaking to your higher self. And I often do that through meditation, just going, right, okay, what I need to bypass my rational mind, my conscious mind, and get to what effectively my soul is saying. What does that need to let me know? Because there's a feeling here, particularly with that Seven of Cups and the Five of Cups, that representing quite kind of low level considerations, just the kind of everyday stuff that we tend to put quite a lot of weight and importance into. And it's not to say it isn't important, but as long as we can remain aware of the bigger picture of what it is we're doing, what is it we're striving for, what is it that we're trying to cultivate on a bigger scale, don't necessarily get caught up on the finer details. Really, again, this is what the Hierophant represents, is an awareness of the bigger picture, and why I said before, it's like the light within the storm is the North Star. That's where I'm headed. That's what, and that will enable you to keep faith and keep trust of whatever is in flux, whatever is not settled at the moment, understanding, okay, this is all for reason. This is all, yeah, there's an image that's coming to mind. It's a little bit like you may find yourself in the maelstrom this month, but things will then soon settle, and then clarity will come. We also have the Ten of Wands, the Lord of Oppression. I had this, before you despair too strongly, I had this in the middle of my card for my 2025 reading that I did. The Ten of Wands upright and the Ten of Wands reversed. Very interesting. Never had that before. But the Ten of Wands is usually about picking up too many responsibilities or trying to do too much or taking too much on. I think I already said that. So it's... There isn't necessarily a big message here around, well, don't do that. In some ways, it may just be a fairly full-on month, not necessarily a bad thing. Aries energy tends to bring that out. Obviously, it's the element of fire. And Leo working in the element of fire, it wants to do, it wants to push forward, it wants to make things happen. And therefore, there's just a feeling of collecting one too many sticks and go, oh, that looks interesting. Oh, that looks interesting. Oh, I want to do that as well. So there's almost this slightly magpie aspect coming through of not being able to say no. But there isn't necessarily a message, as I mentioned, of don't do that. It may just be that you feel that your hands are quite full, that things are going to be slightly more intense. That you are going to have to spin many, many plates. This in part is perhaps why this sense of overwhelm or confusion is coming through. But there is also a feeling here that that is necessary. Obviously, don't make sure that it isn't slipping into martyrdom, nor is it slipping into self-flagellation, whipping oneself of, oh, I've got to push through regardless. If there are moments of ease that you can bring in, great. But across the board, there is this feeling of, it might just feel a little bit like you're pushing water uphill this season, but I don't feel, and this is the really important bit, I don't feel that that's for naught. I feel that there is going to be results of that when we get over that tipping point, that apex, and the boulder, proverbially speaking, rolls down the other side of the hill. It's like, oh, that was all worth it. That effort and that energy that was being put in is all worth it. And very much why we have to remember that Hierophant energy of trust, surrender, and belief, that this is the way that things are meant to be playing out. Finally, we have the King of Cups energy here too. The King of Cups usually is the counselor. It is the person who offers emotional support. So interesting that we have this in reverse in combination with the Hierophant. Therefore, it's playing out probably in one of two ways. One is you might not necessarily like the guidance that you receive. It might be, oh no, I don't want to hear that. No, I want it to be like this instead, which may exacerbate this feeling of confusion. But it also may talk about false prophets. Are we looking to counsel in the wrong places? Are we perhaps relying too much on the opinions and input of other people? And this is the kind of quote unquote danger of looking at what sometimes can be the danger of the Hierophant. Sometimes the shadow side of the Hierophant is a cult leader, a false leader, a false prophet. So it's about being discerning, I suppose, about the input, and particularly, I'm going to use quite a strong term here, particularly about the emotional manipulation of others. Now, I don't feel that that is Machiavellian, puppeteering, very calculated by any means. It's just ensuring that you don't take on other people's stuff, emotionally, particularly. That you don't feel, and particularly if there is a certain power dynamic playing out, that just be mindful this month about people just in a kind of subtle way, trying to guilt trip you. And that could be as simple as, oh, I don't want to go to that restaurant. I want to go to this restaurant. It can be just very, very subtle. This isn't anything too grim. But the fact that the King of Cups is showing up reversed just talks about an emotional investment or emotional advice or an emotional dynamic that may not be conducive to your best good. I don't feel that you have to throw out baby with bathwater with that. It's just being very aware of, that's your stuff, this is my stuff, I need to make up my own mind. So it's not entering into the Aries season with an air of mistrust by any means, but rather an awareness, particularly in those times that you might feel confused. Other people might use that to their advantage very subtly. So it's just being aware of that. So that's my reading. Does it help? Does it resonate? If so, let me know in the comments below. As ever, be sure to sign up to the email notifications. You can check the pinned comment below on how to do that, and also find out your sun sign, rising sign, and moon sign, so you get a full panoramic view as to your Aries season. But so this is slightly complicated. I'll be doing this again for Taurus season, but there are videos coming out in between. Check the channel update for more info. But until next time, see you then.